ticket sales are also open on Unibank, and students will be unable to leave. And AP exam payment portals also open today, so students should sign up so they can take the exams in May. For sports, girls soccer has a home game tomorrow against Sharon. Boys soccer beat Canton 4-2. There's a volleyball game I'm pretty sure going on right now, senior night if I'm correct. Volleyball also just won against KP 3-2. Football won on Friday 21-20 against Taunton, and they have a game this Friday at Attleboro. The homecoming football game is on October 24th against Bishop Feion. As for the senior class, there's a senior project meeting in the auditorium after school on Thursday. And for the juniors, this upcoming Saturday, PSATs are being held at the high school. There will be no makeup dates, so you have to be sure to get there on time.
All right. Thank you very much. Any kind of questions, comments from the committee?
We're good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
You too.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I have 3 announcements. First, there's a half day for students for professional learning for our staff tomorrow, Wednesday, October 15th. Across the district, educators will engage in professional learning aligned with strategic initiative number 3, aligning instructional practices. Educators will spend time analyzing a variety of data, planning with colleagues, and sharing best practices. Next, with regard to budget preparations, as we begin to work on the FY27 budget, our focus remains on aligning resources with district priorities, sustaining high-quality opportunities for all students. We continue to navigate the financial pressures that follow the end of one-time funds. At the same time, rising costs in areas such as health insurance, special education tuition, contractual obligations are expected to create some funding gaps. To address these challenges, we'll continue to work using our zero-based budgeting process and approach this year. Through the zero-based budgeting process, every expenditure is carefully reviewed to ensure transparency, accountability, and alignment with the student success across the district. This means that each department and school will build their budgets from the ground up, identify essential needs, look for areas of redundancy, and ensure that resources that directly support students are in place and prioritized. To facilitate this process, Ms. Malati has created budget workbooks similar to what she created last year for each of the schools and department cost centers. She will meet individually with principals and cost center administrators to review the books for clarity on expectations and how to utilize them. This is the same model that Ms. Malati had instituted last year with all the change in how we reorged all the schools. But it will be an opportunity to kind of have an intro meeting, work through, clarify anything, and then we'll continue through our process where we all come together meet as teams. So that work, I know that I've been CC'd on emails where those workbooks have been shared, and ultimately through some careful planning and collaboration, we'll continue to manage our finances responsibly while also keeping our focus where it belongs, which is ultimately in the service of our students in our schools, and continue the implementation of our pre-K through 8 reorganization, which we have been prepping for, we're currently implementing, but need to continue to work to support as we notice things where there are needs throughout the district. And we'll continue to do that. And we'll continue to update you on that process and provide more information in future presentations to kind of walk through what that will look like. But we wanted to let you know that preparations and some of the background work that we usually reference in the winter has already begun this year. Finally, the instructional leadership team meetings have started. So we recently launched our instructional leadership team school visits, the ILT, and where district administrators join school-based leadership teams to visit classrooms, see teaching and learning in action. We have been into so many incredible spaces and classrooms and seen some amazing interactions to start the school year as students and teachers are really working really hard. They're engaged, students are engaging with one another. Teachers are welcoming their students and creating environments where you want your kids to be in Franklin Public Schools. So we appreciate all the educators who've opened their doors to us, and we look forward to continuing this process throughout the year. We have our final school tomorrow, and we will have completed our first round of walkthroughs as we continue, and they've been really, really positive and an opportunity for us to see. And I think this is really exciting for us where we swung into such an operational standpoint for many, many months to be able to get in to see teaching and learning and see the great work that our educators are doing with kids is really why we took these roles. So it was exciting. And that concludes my my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
We look forward for those books. That's all I got.
Thank you.
I just want to say, commend Jana, because I know that this is something that we were pretty excited to implement. So good job for bringing that, because we need our finances to be easily understood by the public. It's helpful, so thanks.
No questions, but thank you for the update, and thank you for just your proactive and thoughtful leadership when it comes to the budgeting process for the coming year.
Yep, just to echo my colleagues, thank you for starting the budget as soon as we are talking about it now. It feels like we just got through budget season. So I think the sooner we can start talking about it, the more the families understand the impacts and what this means for their students and also how they can help contribute. So thank you for being proactive.
Not for me.
Yeah, one, just to echo what everybody else, the fact that we're having these conversations right now, middle of October, talking about next year's budget is fantastic. And maybe for folks too, at home, kind of listening in, and especially I know, the school budget is always such a big talking point. One, this is a perfect opportunity to now jump on board and start paying attention for a lot of the discussion that's going to continue to happen really in the springtime of next year as we kind of move forward. And the other thing too, just to really kind of elaborate, like a zero-based budget, I mean, that's from the ground up, and then kind of building your systems and putting the price tags on that. That's not just kind of copying and pasting what you had from one year, moving forward with a couple of tweaks here or there. It's incredibly thoughtful, detailed, and I remember what my grad school professor would say, the worst, most difficult and time-consuming type of a budget to make. And so the fact that you guys are taking this head on is absolutely fantastic, because it really is one of the best ways to actually kind of go and make sure that every single dollar is being spent with the most utility and the most effectiveness as possible. So really, for folks at home, please continue to kind of stay engaged right now, because the springtime and the budget hearings and all that fun stuff will be here before we know it, but the conversations are already happening. And Superintendent, I also just want a quick shout out. KP and I had the opportunity to visit one of the schools last week and see how lunch was kind of being served. We had heard from some families about kind of questioning about that, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was like a NASCAR pit crew. We had Aaron, Collins number 2, had timed it from the moment that kids kind of walked into the cafeteria until every single one had a tray and was seated at the table. And it was incredibly well run. It was a great experience. We got a free meal out of it, and the food was terrific. The company as well was wonderful. We got to sit with a number of kiddos. This is down at Washington. It was really fun. It actually happened to be a kiddo from we had, there was a Parmenter, there was an Oak, and there was Kennedy that was actually at the building. But just real great, wanted to kind of commend your team for what you guys are doing over there. And I would love if food services be able to kind of come on down and present. It's a future school committee meeting. They're doing some fantastic work. And there's a lot of, Colin was kind of nerding out with the way that he kind of puts all the lunches together to really kind of maximize the value for the kiddos. And it was terrific work. So I wanted to thank you guys as well for that opportunity.
We did not connect on that, so I appreciate you sharing it publicly, and I'm glad it was positive. That's great. That's great. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, just want to add to that, we had a free lunch along with the fresh fruit as well.
Oh,
There you go.
very good. Very good.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much. Do guest presentations.
Okay, so we have 2 presentations tonight. You'll notice in your packet. The first I have is, I have 2 of our administrators, our principal of our high school, Dr. Maria Weber, and I have our principal of our Franklin Middle School, Mr. Craig Williams, who will come up and give a brief update on clubs. We felt like it's that time of year where there are some questions, and they will speak to their process, where they're at, and then open it up to any questions. And like I said, I told them to not over-prepare, but just come and prepare what you had available, so I know that you've done that. And then after that, we'll move into the food pantry presentation as well, and we'll introduce them at that time. Thank you.
Hey, good evening. Maria Weber again, principal of the high school.
Craig Williams, principal of Franklin Middle School.
So we wanted to give you an update of where we are in terms of getting clubs up and running at the high school. So here I outlined the process for you all. We started with the list that's currently part of our MOU and our contract. So clubs that have historically been offered and clubs that we are able to offer through that. And we sent out a list to the entire staff to solicit interest. So first we had to start with getting people interested in advising these clubs. So staff who expressed interest were selected as advisors. And then we actually hunted down a few people too to get certain clubs up and running that we really wanted to make sure we had a representation for. And so then once we've had the club advisors established, they will run based on student interest. So sufficient interest is determined by having consistently active members, and those members will pay the activity fee. And so in order to generate student interest, we had a nice club fair. It was awesome. It was really a highlight, and there are some pictures on our website too if anybody wants to check them out. But we had over 35 clubs represented, so we had students set up tables with poster boards, and they were advertising their club and their club missions and sort of explaining to kids grade 9 through 12 what the club purpose is. And so they had like sheets where kids could write down if they were interested in joining and connect them to the advisors. And so since then, some clubs have began meeting, and they've advertised when they're going to meet and where they're going to meet. And so we're really trying to generate student interest that way. And so we're going to see how this goes for the next month, and we expect that the payments will be in by November 1st. Then we'll give it a couple of weeks of reminders, but then by the November 15th, we need to determine which clubs are going to run or not, based again on student interest and student payment. But the bright side of all this is there are several clubs. We have lots of students who are proposing new clubs, and we just don't have room for them given our current budget restrictions. So if certain clubs that don't have students as interested as perhaps they used to be, then we have an opportunity for some students to propose new clubs. And then we'll have a process for determining, again, which of those we can put out to the students and the staff to be advisors, and we'll go from there. So currently, after all of that, is there a next slide? Do I click? Thank you. Okay. So these, you can see this is the list. It really encompasses a range of student interests, I think. And these are the clubs that we are offering to students as of today. And right now, these club advisors are in the process of just meeting with kids and collecting payments, and hopefully they will run after the 15th. And again, if not, we'll have room for some new club proposals. And that's where we stand for the high school.
All right, so Dr. Weber is describing something that at Franklin Middle School we're striving to get to eventually, but as you all know, we're in a place where we're rebuilding or building really from the ground up with our clubs. So we have taken, we're striving to do a similar process. We sent out a club interest survey to indicate which clubs staff were able to advise. And then so we're in the process right now having some conversations with staff members, as Dr. Weber said, maybe hunting a few down to finalize the club offerings based on staffability, and also wanting to try to have a diversity of clubs and a range of club opportunities with the budget that we do have. Our plan is for next week. We will be sending out a student interest survey that will be shared with all students to gauge participation and enthusiasm for the proposed clubs, with then really a hope to see if we can get those clubs started either the week of October 27th or the week of November 3rd. And then we'll be looking to, again, kind of in a very similar way to what the high school is doing, allowing a period of time in which students can try out clubs, but then expecting that we're setting, as of now, a December 1st student activity fee deadline. And then if we can or need to make adjustments, we will. We're really at the middle level. One of the real strengths of the middle level for so long were the club offerings, and over the past few years, they have not been in existence. There were limited clubs last year after the year previous in which there were none. So we really want to try to get these off the ground, but at the same token, we have to balance the bandwidth of all the adults in the building who are in a significant transition. So that's where we are with clubs at Franklin Middle School.
All right, any questions, comments from the committee?
Yeah, I think just one question from me. What is the cost of the student activity fee? Does that vary by club based on what they're trying to participate in? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I can speak to the high school clubs. The fee is consistent for across grades. It's $128 this year. However, what's different this year, some of the high school clubs have additional costs associated with them that students now participating will have to pay. So in previous years, they may not have. So in previous years, we were able to include things like transportation to events like academic decathlon and things like that. And now if a student chooses to be part of that club, for example, they'll pay the activity fee, but they'll also have to pay for like competition fees, transportation and things like that. So there can be additional fees for some clubs depending on what they do.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just chime in too, the club fee is $128 and it covers all of the clubs. So it's one collection, you don't pay per club, you pay for the year, and then you can access multiple clubs within that year.
It's a good point.
And that's the same at the middle level as well.
Yeah.
The middle, yeah, that was my next question. Perfect, that's all I had, thank you.
Do we know roughly how many clubs that have previously run at the high school level aren't expected to run this year?
So of the ones, yes, of the ones that we put out, we actually have a lot running this year. There were only 7 clubs this year that aren't running because there was no advisor who would advise them. And there also really hasn't been students knocking down our doors begging for them either. So these are clubs that have sporadically run in the past, and like the student interest sort of ebbs and flows. So there are 7 this year that currently don't have a club advisor, that have run, I would say, inconsistently over the past couple of years.
And then looking at the timelines for any of the late breaking clubs, like if any clubs don't end up running, it seems like things get a little tight. How quickly are we able to really turn that around to make sure that those students, just because they have a club that is able to run because other clubs didn't, they don't lose another month or another month and a half? What's the process to getting that all taken care of quickly? Going through looking for advisors, looking for all the students getting the interest out again, without the student fair to kind of bring everyone in with the clubs. It seems like that might be a little bit harder. So do we have kind of a concentrated effort to make sure that those run quickly?
So we've already begun meetings with a lot of the kids who've expressed an interest in proposing a club, and have kind of told them that they're on hold. But we do have a formal form where students will submit sort of like the mission of their club, the frequency of their expected meetings, to name the person that they have already spoken with who will advise the club, and then we hope to have a quick turnaround. And in terms of advertising, you're right, we're not going to have a second club fair. However, we have really good means of advertising within our building through like Panther Book, our TV screens, morning announcements, the student newsletter, the website. So I'm pretty confident that students can get the word out of the new clubs. Again, these are tentative. We don't know how many will potentially, could be just 2, could be 3, could be none. We'll know after. But we already have sort of those background steps in motion. So after the 15th, we can hopefully get those underway and running in December.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's the plan.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So I guess one question I have is regarding transportation. Has that been determined if we're going to have late buses at all available?
I actually, yes, we are. I'm
Yes.
sure Jonna might have more details, but I heard that that's.
Yes, we will have, we have confirmed buses for the high school. We are waiting on the bus company to confirm the middle school, but it is very likely that the middle school will also get a bus. I can have an update with you once I hear back from them by the end of the week.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Yeah, I think that's great. I know that's been what we've heard in years past, that has prohibited participation. But is the availability of the bus as a result of having less places to go to? Is that driving the ease, or is it unrelated?
I believe that partially is the reason. I believe they have 2 available buses that might not do run in other towns, and they might be able to do the middle school run, the late buses.
Okay, great, thank you. So it's just, once again, I think while we're still in the beginnings of redistricting, I think we should also look for the silver linings of, what things are we able to get because of this. And, I mean, had we been in 3 different locations, this probably wouldn't have been able to happen.
Wouldn't be able to.
It probably costs a lot more, so, so I think this is a win for the kids, and hopefully allows them to help establish these communities better than, if they had not had these clubs, so. I know we don't have the answer now, but what would be really interesting to find out is, after these clubs are established, what does the duration of these trips look like? Because now it's one bus going wherever, so it'd just be curious to find out. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you both for, well, to you and your team for this work that you're doing with, on the clubs, and really providing for just a well-rounded experience for our students here in Franklin. I mean, particularly at the middle level with, in the first year of the newly designed district. It's so important to have these opportunities for community building, for students to get to know each other and to find a place where they can fit in, have some time for extracurriculars, but also just create the well-rounded experience and to come together. So it's so important. Thank you. And again, and your teams for all this hard work and for this update. We really appreciate it.
The only thing I would ask, it looks like, I have to do this because it's like, these are the people in my ears constantly. I know that there was discussions about symphony specifically. It looks like string orchestra, is that listed? Because I know the strings is through lifelong learning, so to me, is it, I know they wanted to keep it as an academic, but if we can even keep it as a club. The big draw from what I heard from the parents, I don't play, so what I heard was when we don't bring the winds and the strings together, it eliminates 80% of the music catalog available. So if you're only a string orchestra, you really have very limited pieces that you can play. So it changes the trajectory of majoring in music and getting into certain schools. So they wanted me to give that a plug. But I'm sure you're going to hear from the music boosters without me being the liaison. So, this is exciting to hear. Like to Al's point, we have late buses back, and I know it's a lot on you guys trying to figure it all out, even outside of school now. So, appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you both. Could you please go back to the club's slide?
Sure.
From the school committee perspective, can we suggest any clubs?
I'm sorry, can you repeat
Can
that?
we advise any clubs to move on? Like artificial intelligence, like that kind of clubs, can we suggest?
Can you,
So I could just speak broadly as a district. If students are expressing interest in a club and there's an employee, a Franklin Public Schools teacher or staff member who's willing to run it, and that was a club that they wanted, it could end up in a situation where Dr. Weber's form, where it's like we're looking for an AI club, this is the teacher that's willing to do it, it would be considered as part of that process. But outside of that, the club would need to be run by a staff member that works within the schools, so.
Yeah, one of these days we'll send you the one list, a couple of names for you to go with the present, starting with 2025, the artificial intelligence is booming like now, but we need to update the whole school district students as well.
right,
So send you an email. Thank you.
sure.
And yeah, thank you very much for this. And yeah, it's fantastic to kind of see this grow, especially I know for the 4 years that the three of us have kind of been on the committee, kind of where clubs, especially at the middle school level, worked at that time to where they're growing is just fantastic. So thank you so much for all the work that's gone into this. And when it comes to transportation with that late bus, and this might be maybe early to ask this question, but what might the cost be for the students and the families? Do we kind of
The cost to students to get on the late bus?
Yes, is it just gonna be there, or is it gonna be an added fee that we'll have to?
We don't usually charge them for the late bus. I don't know, at the high school level,
If they have a bus pass,
they wouldn't be
we've
charged.
allowed them to ride
Yeah.
the bus on a different run if it's connected to an after-school. I can think of in the past, years ago, we would charge $1 for the late bus if
Yes.
you were not a bus rider but needed a ride home. We have not discussed that
I
in
don't
any.
think we did that much.
That is a thought, but we haven't gone there because the focus has been on getting the clubs, and we wanted to see, do we have commitment on the buses? But we have had a model like that in Franklin a few years ago, where it was $1 to ride if you did not already have a pass. If you had a bus pass, you present it, and that's considered what your family paid for you to get home to and from school. That's how we've viewed it.
Perfect. So really just, trying to eliminate as many barriers as
Mhm.
possible for kids to utilize these clubs, to kind of be able to go into, to make use of them, which is great. And then, talked about, you spoke a lot about the clubs really kind of being contingent on student interest. And so, just for folks at home, has that always been the case? Is that what other school districts do, or is that more just because of financial barriers that we have?
I would say it's partly due to financial barriers, because in the past, we've had clubs run at very small numbers, and they've just, like, for instance, a club, like a book club, might only generate 5 or 6 students that come consistently. And so now we're in a position to say, should this club continue or not, because it only has that many students in it. So, but keeping that in mind, we're trying to get very creative. So I can already think of, like, we have the chess club and the Dungeons and Dragons club, and I've already had conversation with that advisor, and we talked about, well, if we only get a few students in chess and a few students in Dungeons and Dragons, would you be willing to take on both with just one stipend and just have both groups in the same space? And that advisor, that teacher is willing, so that's good. So we're trying to get creative so we can make this as inclusive as possible for as many kids who want to. But at the same time, we have to make some tough decisions too. Yeah,
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
yeah.
All right.
So thank you for outlining the process. I think we are aware, and I know that this is also communicated through parent newsletters. If you're a parent who's interested to learn more, you can expect to see more information available on, if it's not online, it's definitely, I've seen it put out in newsletters and whatnot. So we'll continue to work directly from here with the community, the school communities themselves, and work through that process. But thank you both.
Thank you.
And it's really great to see, this is another example too of Dr. Weber and Mr. Williams working closely and aligning to have some consistency when we think about the student and family experience. I think where they can be aligned, they've really worked to do that, and where they need to be different, they've honored that too. So I want to just credit both of them, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So next up, we have our valued partners, the Franklin Food Pantry here. We're joined by Tina Powderly and Laura Doherty, who will share some information. Were you here last year, Tina? I can't remember if it was the year before.
I don't think so.
This might be a two-year
Yes,
two-year gap. Okay. Well, we're excited to have the food pantry here. They've been great partners, and they've obviously been great for our community in so many ways that they'll speak to. So I will not steal your thunder and kick it right over to you to present. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us. I'm going to run slides, and Laura is going to do most of the presentation.
All right, thank you for having us. Last year, 1,900 people accessed the pantry. That is 500 more people than the total enrollment at Franklin High School. I just want you to think about that for a minute. Think about the kids in the entire high school. 500 more than that number came to the pantry. And those folks who come to the pantry, there are neighbors, there are colleagues, there are aunts and uncles and parents, and their families with young children who are in the Franklin Public Schools. Food insecurity is something that I think many folks perhaps in our community don't believe it exists to this extent, but it does. When clients come to the food pantry, they shop as if they're in a market. And David was there recently. We invite all of you to come and get in touch with us at any point to see the type of experience that folks are having when they come to the pantry. We offer clients fresh produce, dairy, milk, eggs, and cheese are always available. We've made that commitment to folks. We always have proteins. And as you can see in the picture above, we always have a large variety of breads and bakery items available for folks. The primary way that people access food at the pantry is to come and shop in person, but for a lot of people, if you can't do that, there are many other ways that you can access the pantry. If you are a family with 2 income earners and you have a job and you can't get to the pantry during the day, then you can come Tuesday night. We call it curbside. And essentially you drive through and you shop as if you were in the pantry. We bring coolers of, again, eggs, milk, cheese, all the proteins that you'd be able to choose if you were inside, outside to the curb. You don't get out of your car and you drive through and you're able to access that. If you don't have transportation and you can't get to the pantry, we have 4 mobile pantries that we offer out in the community. Again, we set these up as mini pantries, bringing those same fresh items, and also partner with the YMCA who brings non-perishable items. So we do this at the senior center. We also go to Glen Meadow Community, Central Park Terrace, and just recently in September, we started the 4th mobile pantry at Gatehouse Lane down on 140. If you can't leave your home, you can get food that way also. We'll deliver food to you. We call you every week and check to see how you're doing, tell you what's available that week, pack those bags, and then that's delivered to your home. So there's several ways that you can access food through the pantry. It doesn't mean you have to come in and shop. With all of those programs, one of the things that maybe you're thinking is, oh my gosh, how on earth does all of that take place in a week? And the way that it takes place is because of all of our partners and our volunteers. We have innumerable partners, some of whom we'll talk a little bit about, who enable us to do all of that work. And we also have hundreds of volunteers. It takes 125 volunteers every week to keep these programs running. So we could not do this without our volunteers. You can see on these graphs, the need is rising. And this last year, the amount of food that was distributed equals 67,000 bags of groceries. So that need continues to grow. To the right, you can see we're talking about the Weekend Backpack Program. You may be familiar with the Weekend Backpack Program. It is facilitated through the school nurses, and essentially families come to the school nurses, or the nurses go to the families who may not be able to have food for the weekend for their children. And so we pack up that number of bags, deliver them to the schools every week, and those get put in the children's backpacks when they're headed home for the weekend. That program started as a pilot in 2018 at the Parmenter School with 10 bags a week. Last year, we were up to 125 bags a week, and they're distributed through every Franklin public school. However, we know that we're not reaching nearly as many kids who really could utilize that food on the weekend. So one of our goals is to grow the program in partnership with the schools, making sure that we get the word out about the program, that families feel comfortable participating in the program and don't feel any stigma about utilizing the weekend backpack program. An interesting fact that we've been working on with Colin is that we have a number of kids in middle school who participate in this program, and then in high school, it's like they all disappear. There's nobody at the high school who participates in this program. So we've been looking at some different ways to try to reach the kids there to be able to utilize that particular program. How we're meeting community needs. We're talking a little bit about food partnerships, but I want to step back for a minute and let you know that 59% of the food that the pantry distributes is purchased. The rest of that food we get through food recovery partners. A food recovery partner is somebody who goes out to the supermarkets and recovers food that would be thrown away because they want to take it off the shelves to make room for new products, or it's going to expire in the next couple of days. So those recovery partners bring us thousands of pounds of food that instead of being in the trash, end up in the hands of folks who need that food and are going to eat that healthy, nutritious food. So we look at partnerships with that, and this is a good time to mention Colin and Aaron again, because what they do is when they've got leftover food that they're not going to be able to repurpose, and they are great at repurposing, they give it to us. So a good example of that is a few weeks ago when school was starting, there was a large amount of cut fruit that was available that wasn't eaten, had another probably 2 days that it was going to be good to distribute. And Aaron packaged it all up in to-go containers, brought it to the pantry. We offered it to our clients, and they were thrilled. It was fresh, healthy food, and again, it's keeping it out of the landfill, and it's giving it to folks who need it. So some of those partnerships that we'll talk a little bit more about really help us achieve our mission. So other things, just some things that we've done recently that are very exciting. The Tuesday curbside that I talked about, the drive up, we have closed all of our programs to surrounding towns about 2 years ago. And that was primarily because the need was growing so quickly that we could not continue to accept new clients from areas outside of Franklin. And you may or may not know that the surrounding towns, those pantries are open an hour and a half, 2 hours a week, 1 day a week, usually during the week when folks are at work. And so it's very difficult for people in those communities to access food. We recently realized that, I shouldn't say realized, we strategically planned that we had the capacity to open up curbside to folks in those neighboring towns who are having challenges accessing food. So that's been really exciting for us. You'll hear us talk a lot about transportation. We've got a great partnership with the senior center, and the senior center van is used to bring clients to the pantry. That is really a huge area for us as we partner with Fish and GATRA, because there are a lot of folks who don't have their own transportation to get to the pantry. We focus a lot on referral and support systems. So for example, folks who come to the pantry may have other needs from a housing perspective or a health perspective, or they need some assistance in signing up for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and we're able to do all of those kinds of things with them. We'll talk a little bit, the next slide, about education and advocacy, which is an area that we're also expanding and focusing on. So speaking of education, We've done some really fun and exciting things with Franklin Public Schools, and you can read the list, but nothing will ever be able to express how fun it is to go to Oak Street School, bring the pantry truck, see all the kids in the second grade who made these beautiful birthday boxes, basically a shoebox that they've decorated, made a handwritten card, put in cake mix and icing and candles, and then bring it up to the pantry truck and load it in there. And then after that, I get the great joy of going into the classroom and showing them a presentation, which hopefully what they leave with is, it's okay to ask for help. That's what the pantry is for. We want you to ask for help, and there's nothing to be ashamed of or embarrassed about. And the questions they have are phenomenal. And last year, the second grade class was then in third grade, and they all walked to the pantry, all, I think it was 60 or 70 of them, with their teachers, came in, bringing an item that they had collected, and got a tour of the pantry and weighed the items that they had given us. So there is nothing more incredible than seeing, you all work with them, so you see it a lot, seeing these children come in with those wide eyes and open minds and really not be ashamed, afraid of walking into a food pantry. So that's really exciting. And we know that this is a year with great transition, and we look forward to doing a lot more of that in the classroom. So it's a lot of fun, but our goal is to, in addition to getting food to folks who are looking to access the pantry, it's to make sure that they feel welcome and that there is nothing to be ashamed or embarrassed about in coming and asking for help. How can we partner? We're already doing a lot of it. I talked about Colin, I talked about the classrooms. We have Empty Bowls, which is a huge program for the pantry. We're looking forward to doing that again this year. We have the Pantry Elves, which is a community service program that we'll be rolling out. And that's essentially what started years ago, is having middle and high school students collect food during the holidays and bring it to the pantry. It's now moved on to be more of an online program where they're raising funds and spreading awareness about the pantry. That's going to be coming soon. Teams and clubs are always doing food drives for us and also coming in for tours and to learn more about what the pantry does. Field trips to the pantry. Oh, we love when the kids come to the pantry. So there's a lot of great things that we can do, and many that we are doing. And one of the things that I'd like to close with is we want to do more, and we want to have teachers and educators and these kids look at the pantry as a place that is a welcome resource for them. And ideas that you guys have at any time about how we can do that, we would love to hear more about that. So thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and for this presentation, especially for all the work that you do for this community. It's fantastic. And real quick, Chris, while I'm talking, can we zoom in on that, this great sign, you guys?
Oh, great, thank you.
People see my face plenty of times. Show them something else. Well, we're jumping over to there. Yeah, I had the opportunity to be invited in and to tour the Franklin Food Pantry, and it was the first time being there since Edwin's kind of closed down, and it was a marvelous, incredible place you have over there with so many great volunteers. I got to see a great friend, Iana, over there,
right, yeah.
And so just thank you very much for the opportunity to kind of come in there and to see all the work that you're doing. And then for coming over back here to the school committee, to our meeting, just to kind of present out. There was a couple of things I'd love to touch base on real quick. I know when we had spoken, there was kind of talk about Stop and Shop offering a grant program where if we can kind of provide like a mini pantry within the schools, perhaps at the high school, that they would be able to kind of fund that. Would you be able to elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. The Stop and Shop Foundation has a focus on school pantries. And so what we talked about is the opportunity to find a space within the high school where we could set up shelving, and it would be non-perishable items, a place where kids could come in and access that food. So that's something that we would love to explore further. The thought was that if high school students are not accessing the weekend backpack program, that this could be a more discrete type of program that would work better for them.
And I know, and I had mentioned that, and Colin had wrote back as well. Hopefully in like the school wellness, we might be able to kind of talk about that as years go on. I know there's a lot on the school slate right now.
No, but this is important work, and what I appreciate about the food pantry, particularly Tina and Laura, they come with suggestions, but they have solutions, and they're really solid planners, and I think when they put forth an idea, I think they have thought through, well, what's the support behind that? Because I think sometimes when we get ideas, it's a matter of how do we implement them with fidelity, and how do we make that happen? What resources do we need? How much time? So I think when I say this confidently with them in mind, that I think we're open to anything we can do to try to help provide access to food for kids, especially today. And Colin, I know, has already replied. He's interested in this work. He's food service director too. He's not just operations. So he's excited whenever we get to talk about food because that was his original role. So I think there's tremendous possibility there. I think we just have to get into the same room and look at what could happen and bring Dr. Weber in and try to figure that out.
That'd be wonderful. And and something else too, we had talked about, and I was glad we actually had the conversation about the late bus kind of being developed. And I don't know if there is a possibility of incorporating the Franklin Food Pantry as a stop on the late bus, or just to be able to try to really kind of encourage and drive more traffic, especially at the high school level. I know we spoke a lot about that stigma and about that kind of that drop off at the high school. So just as we kind of continue to explore the late bus and everything else, if that might be something that'd be wonderful, if that's something that might work with you as well.
Great.
Good job taking notes. Thank you very much. Now we'll start down on this side.
I'm highly experienced with food pantries, how this works out. 2 times presidential award, so I have more experience with the food pantries. I really salute for all the volunteers out there for the food pantry, and congratulations Tina for your recent award in the state of Massachusetts. And today I learned new thing that curbside pickup. Today I learned new thing today. I will say the same thing to the community as well. That's all. Thank you. Great. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was poking around on your website a little bit too. I think it's important that people know that people aren't showing up with proof of income. It's not that kind of organization, so that's good to know. I'm glad you're partnering with Empty Bowls. I know it was like everybody was very concerned what will happen now that Brenna's moved on. But I did bump into Miss Cates over at the high school, and she was like, I'm gonna do it, but I don't know if I'm gonna do it as big. Like, she was really nervous, so thanks for supporting her, because I think she's, capable, and like there's a good group of kids that has been sustaining that group too. So one of the best clubs that we have. And then I just was thinking the middle to high school, because I'm sure that's the same, which stinks. So if just an idea, if we sort of were able to communicate with the families prior to them moving to the high school, and maybe the system changes for them where, I don't want to overextend anybody from the high school, but I'm sure if we sought volunteers that maybe once you go to high school, we drop it off on Fridays at your house or something, like, I don't know, then maybe they would continue. But thank you for all you do, and congrats, yes, I read about that.
Can I respond
Yeah,
just because you
yeah.
mentioned empty bowls, so this is a great time to put a plug in. Robin is amazing, and we've definitely got her back, and it's going to be great. But Empty Bowls is a high school-based club that the high schoolers participate in all year. But keep an eye out as community members because we have community events. They're called Open Studios, and there are 2 at the high school, and we're taking this opportunity to sort of reimagine a couple of different events that could occur that would expand Empty Bowls and make it even more accessible to folks in our community. So those are usually in the wintertime. You would sign up and go to the high school hopefully twice, 2 different events, but there might be additional events where the concept of Empty Bowls is to remind us all that somewhere someone's bowl is empty. And so the act of making a bowl is sort of integral to the Empty Bowls Club, which is why it ends up being an arts class. But thank you, we're thrilled. We met with Lucas very early on to express our support, to try to do whatever we could to keep the club going, so that's fantastic. And just on the high school piece, Laura talked about this, but it is very true that folks who shop at our pantry are truly all of us. And when we're out speaking, we're often looking into the audience and seeing folks that we know. And it has happened to us where we have had a group of youth in, whether it's someone from an elementary school or a club team or a civic group, and then they walk through our doors weeks later. And the best feeling in the world is when they walk through the door and say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you, or I know you, or you came to my X, Y, or Z, because it means we've broken down that stigma. So it does get harder as they get older, so we're open to any possible conversations about that, but that's really our goal, because we know those folks are out there, and there's nothing more we want than to have them come through our doors. Thank you.
Well, first off, thank you for this presentation. It's great information to see all that you're doing at the Franklin Food Pantry, and just all the work and all the services that you're providing to serve our neighbors in need. So yeah, thank you for that work. And I've been to the Open Bowls night in the past, and it's great to see that partnership between you and the high school students that run that club, and also the support from the community. It's great to see everyone coming together and supporting this great cause and providing for that. And like I said, great to see all these different partnership opportunities that we in the Franklin Public Schools have with you, and we'd love to explore ways that we could partner more. I think it'd be great if there'd be some way that we can encourage high school students to volunteer with you guys. Maybe there's a way that we could provide course credit for that or something like that. So ways to just think creatively about that, and thank you for showing up here and getting the word out to the community, both if people need your services, but also if people want to volunteer and give back. So thank you for the work you do. Thank you for this presentation, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So thank you for this. I think it's great just to drive the awareness around what you all do and what you support. What was really telling to me, or it really stood out, was the slide with the need is rising. Can you go back to that real quick? Just looking at it from FY22, where we were under, or you were under 30,000 pounds of food distributed to last year, whereas over 600. Like it's the increase is stark, and it just shows that really that there is that need, and the food insecurity is not. It's everywhere. It's happening in our community, and you all do great work to help support that. When I was looking at this though, when you said FY year, what is your fiscal year exactly? Is it
Starts July 1st.
Okay, so it aligns with the school year, so, okay.
Yep.
Perfect. And then just looking at the increase in the weekend backpack program, also doubling from start to where it's at now, so definitely a need, and there's probably folks that are not aware of what you do, so thank you for coming out here to talk about that. I think thinking back to like my first interaction with the food pantry was with what the PCCs do, with the drives that they're trying to raise money, or not money, food to see how much weight that they can gain and how much they can give back. But I also thought back to my son's third grade teacher, Mr. Kelly.
I
where-
love Mr.
yeah.
Kelly.
And and where he had done that the breakfast, but not the breakfast, the
He
birthday
did-
box.
Yeah, he was the one who started it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And my son, he was so excited,
Amazing.
and just the whole thought of, it's very sad if it's your birthday and you can't even have a cake, and how happy my son was to go and pick out the stuff from the grocery store and get that box for somebody. So I really appreciate the partnership that the schools have with you and how it just helps drive kids to think beyond themselves, because, I mean, as an adult, it was like, I wasn't thinking, oh yeah, birthday cake on your birthday, even you're not having that ability, so great partnership there.
We have a story of a family who came through the Tuesday curbside pickup, and the birthday boxes were out, and she said, "That's the one I made," and so the volunteer said, "Oh, would you like it?" And she said, "No, I want to make sure somebody else gets that." And so yes, it's just incredible the impact that it has on children and adults, all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really joyful project.
Exactly. I mean, it just really embodies the whole portrait of the graduate in terms of what we want our kids to be and how they want them to give back and help. So thank you for helping support that and partnering and it's driving that avenue. I know in our monthly newsletter, we do have a section about the food pantry. And we've talked about empty bowls before and kind of drive awareness. But if there's any other events from a community perspective that you want us to help drive some awareness to, definitely let us know as well. We can make sure that the public knows and just kind of get it into a different avenue that folks may not see and be aware of. So,
Great.
But thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
I was pretty shocked, especially in the opening of this presentation, at just how unwilling y'all are to accept that it's hard to get food into people's hands. I think it's very easy for the community and people who just haven't necessarily been around and seen some of the different aspects of what you do, think, great, they have a building, you pull up to the building, you walk into the building. The backpack service is really fantastic, making sure that students are always supported in the best way possible. But really the above and beyond of going out and delivering directly in communities and to individuals, I think it really calls a lot of attention to just the effort that's going into this, and also the sheer manpower involved here. This is wild. I know that you said you have 607 volunteers. I can only imagine the time that some of them are committing. I know that this is, it's a constant process. There's never really a day off. There's never a time when something doesn't have to be happening, as you're pointing out, where you have food donations. Well, if they're, if it's short shelf lives, great, you need to very quickly get things over, very quickly make sure everyone is able to access it. Those kind of things. I appreciate you drawing more and more attention to it. And just remind folks that, we are entering a time of the year where food scarcity is much more acute and people recognize it, especially around holidays such as, the end of year holidays, Thanksgiving. So being able to support, however they can, is definitely going to be important. I know that you had said here, and for those of you who haven't seen this, I'm sure we can post this little image that we have, but it says 966 Thanksgiving and winter meal kits were provided last year, a 60% growth over the previous year. So this is why I'm trying to highlight this for the community to understand that this is a time that's also seeing a lot of growth when you have a lot of these stresses, and also you get to the end of the year, and that's when a lot of people notice just how challenging things can be. So definitely make sure that, we as a community finish strong. To that end, if people are looking to give in a way that is most impactful, obviously time is a great resource for y'all. But when it comes down to, whether people are bringing by cans or food or cash donations, is there really a preference for what you can do the most impact with? I know that sometimes with cash you have the ability to stretch that farther than most of us do.
Buying power.
Yes.
I mean, I love this question because there's just so many ways to participate and support your community through us. So in terms of funds, as Laura mentioned, people probably aren't aware, although there is some food that we do get for free, we purchase the majority of the food. But our purchasing power, because of our relationships with Greater Boston Food Bank and other places, does go further. So our dollar, we don't pay taxes because we're a 501c3, and we have access to heavily discounted product. So funds are always appreciated because then we can pivot. Sometimes we have to purchase our milk, sometimes we can get it at a discount, sometimes we can get it free, but we never know that till Monday morning. So every week is different, and it's not sort of like a restaurant where you're ordering the same food all the time and it's coming out onto the floor. It's always a moving target, so the flexibility of being a monthly donor or giving funds directly is helpful, but sometimes giving product is the best thing, and it can be, we have people who are moving, people who are downsizing, people who run fund drives or have a club or a book club. There's so many people in the neighborhoods gather together. So nothing is too small. The current needs list is on our website, so that sort of tells you real time, and we update that every week in terms of what our needs are. We also have an Amazon wish list. Those items, if you're particularly interested, most of those items kind of fuel the Weekend Backpack program, and you kind of click it and it gets shipped directly to us, so that's easy. But we just had a gentleman in a few weeks ago who works for a food distributor and is trying to build a relationship where we might be able to have what we would call sort of in-kind donations. The folks who plow and sand our property, they do that pro bono. We get a lot of work on the building pro bono. We have committees, a finance committee, a risk committee, an advancement committee, a governance committee, a lawyer who's looking to give back, give us a call. Like there really are so many ways that we would love to have conversations with people about. Whatever makes your heart sing, come find us and we'll find a role for you. But yeah, money is great too.
Point taken. And I think you listed out so many different details and keep on pointing back to the website. So I want to make sure that people do understand and hear all these different ways to contribute in any way, physically, with cans, with packages, with food, with cash, with your time, all of that. You have all the information on your website. So anyone who is looking to get involved, it's just down the street. When it comes to a kind of a home base, it's easy to find. But definitely take the time, and if you are able to contribute even a little bit, I think it really goes a long way. I think that's the message being delivered here. When it comes to working with the schools, I think it's fantastic to hear about a lot of the different partnerships and how you're trying to really support the schools, and that we do have some opportunities that we're able to give back, to y'all as well. Are there ways that we can work more closely with integrating our food services programs with the programs that you have, or different ways we can look into that? Because we do have an economy of scale. I understand your dollar goes a long way, but are there things that we can do that can help fill some of those gaps from time to time that we could potentially explore through a policy?
So I'll answer that because Colin and Aaron are fabulous, and they are looking at ways to do that quite frequently. So I would say that those are things that are being explored.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And implemented. So.
No, that's fantastic, and I think everyone else has done a great job of covering a lot of the other bases. So I appreciate all the efforts, all the time, and the presentation. Again, encouraging folks to look into this more. I think it is in some ways a simple way to have a very large impact in your community, a direct impact in your community and surrounding communities. Calling out again what you all said earlier. Not only are we helping to support a lot of people in town, but we're also supporting 5 surrounding towns as well, through the volunteer work and through the efforts of this organization. So really applaud y'all and appreciate all that you do, and encourage folks to look into more about how we can help as a community support each other. So,
Thank you.
Mostly covered. I mean, just kind of going a little bit off what Paul said, though, efforts to engage with the kids in the schools. I just so appreciate it. That's, my little Sloan was in that Girl Scouts picture that you had up there.
No kidding, really?
She had, yep, she's up by the logo in the back.
love it.
Oh, by the logo with the
Little
blonde?
redhead.
Yeah,
But she came away from that experience of going into the pantry just so excited. I mean, you have some future volunteers in that crew in that photo right there, who came away from that experience with a new understanding and also a new comfort in the services that are offered through the pantry. So we
That's great.
appreciate you.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Thank you for having us. Before we leave, I do want to just reiterate Laura's point that the volunteers, including our fabulous board of directors, but also the staff, work so hard and are so personally invested in what we do there, that it's really what makes the engine run. So if it wasn't for all of them and the community that has enabled us to have a space where people can come, where we can do tours for people, where we can educate the community about what's out there, we wouldn't exist. So it's really the community that has brought us here and will continue bringing us forward. So thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for all that you're doing and for coming out here tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Discussion action items and discussion only items. Good on. Jumping right into information matters. Budget?
Well, we heard earlier during the superintendent's report that Lucas and Jonna and the whole team are starting to look towards the budget for next year, so that's the process underway, but other than that, no updates at this time.
All right. How about policy?
Can I ask Dave a question? Have you heard anything about joint budget yet? Reconvening? Not yet?
No, I have not.
Okay. Policy, yes. So we had our first meeting tonight, Dave's last meeting, Dave Meals. We went over the graduation requirements, first read, so, and competency determination, which, due to the MCAS vote in Massachusetts, we now are tasked and have a pretty firm deadline to kind of create these. So Tina's been working hard with her team to develop these. So we got through the first reading today, and we'll probably have something to bring to you December, probably. So it's not really shaking much up. Franklin had pretty high, standards anyway.
First read on October 28th.
Okay, so first read October 28th. Thanks.
All right. Community relations.
So from a community relations standpoint, we did have the last newsletter go out on Friday, October 3rd, one day later due to Yom Kippur. So we didn't do our normal Thursday cadence. We will have our last one for this school committee body going out on Thursday, October 30th. So we'll wrap up this month and just kind of remind folks about the upcoming election. Other than that, we are waiting until the next body comes in to see where we go from there.
Awesome. And with that, I loved your suggestion to have like the food pantry, any add things to kind of highlight. Have we done that with like Safe Coalition or other ones? I know there's like.
Yeah, so there's a section in there for Safeco, but nothing in terms of advocating any community events. So I think that's something that could expand next year in terms of broadening the horizon around what's happening and what people should be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was a great idea. So to keep that going would be fantastic. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yep.
SWAC
So is this on 21st?
and mental health.
No updates since last meeting.
Yeah, the October 1st, we attended the October 1st and we assigned the tasks for whoever attended.
All right. Perfect. Consent agenda.
I recommend approval of the minutes from your September 30th, 2025 school committee meeting as detailed. I recommend acceptance of $800 from the Lincoln Street 3 through 5 PCC for field trips as detailed. I recommend approval of the student activity clubs accounts as detailed.
All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as detailed?
Move to approve the consent agenda as detailed.
Second,
Second?
discussion, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Good to the order. First meeting of the new month, opportunity for the school committee, talk about ways in which they feel we could improve the board itself.
Yep, so I do have two. So one is regarding public comments, or citizens' comment. I know we moved it to the end. I think that was a really good move to ensure that folks are kind of sitting through the meeting, because there's a lot of good stuff that's happening versus joining and leaving. One thing I think we should revisit, though, is striking out the language that you can't discuss something that was discussed in the meeting. I think now that it's after, it's a perfect opportunity for folks to take what they've heard, provide some of their immediate feedback and thoughts, so that we can hear it versus just waiting for an email. So that was the first thing. The second thing, I think we need to do a better job educating the public on a lot of things. So what I was thinking that we could do is have like a standing 15, 20 minutes just to talk about things that we should educate the public. So I know there's a lot of discussion out there right now around Chapter 70. So maybe like each school committee meeting, it's just a deep, like I was thinking like district deep dive about a certain topic. So 1 month it's about Chapter 70, right? Next month it could be, what does the superintendent do? And it's like just a monthly or meeting series that we have, and everybody has something that we just educate the public around, things that are important that they may not know. Because we hear admin's too top heavy, which is, it's not the case, but people don't know what admin does. So I think if we show, hey, this is what they're doing, this is what's happening, and it's a lot of different topics. And I mean, we have what, we'll say 20 meetings a year. We have different 20 presentations, and we go through a year, maybe we revisit them again and just kind of educate people, just so that it's a continuous understanding of what's happening beyond what is our standing BAU meeting topics. So,
that one, hearing both of those, I know when it comes to the first striking, I think when it was last brought up about citizens' comments, it was going to be added into the policy. I know there's a long roadmap, but we could definitely kind of bring that up to discuss that. That'd be fantastic. I love the education piece as well. You talking just before we're adding any more work to central office, more like the school, with like school committee members, we kind of go and pick a topic.
yeah, I mean,
Present out ourselves.
I think it's a collaboration.
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure how we would do it exactly, but yeah, I think it could be a collaboration.
Yeah, but so effectively just to be able to have, so everybody kind of knows that this part of the agenda, there's going to be this, like how MASC does their learning lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to have something that kind of says, this is kind of, you want to learn about, FinCom has, what is that, like Bill's deep dive, Bill
Okay.
Dowd's deep dive, we
Mhm.
kind of have our deep dive on a certain piece of something.
Yeah,
related to.
exactly. And I mean, I think this is a good time, especially with where we're at from an elections perspective. There are a lot of things that we do that other groups that have input, like the town council, that may not be aware of, So the more that they understand why things are happening, the better, the easier it is to say, oh, yep, this makes sense to put our dollars there.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something we probably could work with Franklin TV, I'm assuming, where they might be able to also snip that.
Mhm,
And
yep,
just so that
exactly.
way it's like, all right, you don't want to watch the whole 3-hour meeting, or less than an hour and a half right now. But here's the quick little
Yeah, exactly.
thing about Chapter 70, about,
Yeah, exactly.
what
And
our
it's
15-year
just,
goals are, or the case is.
exactly, because
Okay.
I think there's a lot of misconception out there, and there's a lot of people that have their, things have changed, and, I mean, we hear all the time, declining enrollment, and your budget should go down, but the cost from a special education standpoint has gone significantly up, but people don't know that. So if we had a special education segment, hey, this has gone up $1 billion more than it did 10 years ago, I think it sells it easier for people, and people are like, okay, this makes sense, and this is why what is happening is happening.
That's great. Okay. Thank you.
mental health and artificial intelligence are the urgent topic of the hour. Like our community, especially Franklin, needs those kind of topics. So I want to give a big shout out for the Henry Louis Henson that we had a webinar with him a couple of days ago, and we're going to have another artificial intelligence seminar with the Franklin TV on this month 20th at 6 p.m. So we're going to publish all those to the Franklin community.
All right.
I got something. I think that we need to be ready for when the new town council is elected. And maybe we can work on this like through you all. I think we should try to plan to get the new council in the buildings. I hear stories from a former FinCom chair who says that, you know, when Maureen was superintendent and Nutting, like when the new town council would get elected, she'd take them around on the little bus to like the schools and get them in the buildings and kind of give them like, you know, like a one-pager of just kind of some efficiencies, some things that like we've done. I think now more than ever, on paper, that would look really impressive to a new school committee. I mean, a new town council, because I'm just concerned a little bit about some of the interviews that I've listened to. I think that a lot of people are engaged right now in the community because of the building, and they weren't necessarily plugged into why these 2 years of budget overrides and discussions have happened. So if we end up with a town council that's got a lot of new members, which we will because there's a couple people already not running, then I think it's imperative that we get them up to speed pretty quickly, because I'm not sure how much they've been engaged in the past 2 years of budget problems, you know, so just something to think about. I have sort of a list that I can talk to Jana about like maybe what that one pager can kind of show, and I'm sure you do too, so, thanks.
Thank you. All right, citizens' comments.
Hello, everybody. I'm Henry Reese Hansen, 2 Janey Avenue. Good to see you all again. Mrs. O'Sullivan, I wanted to speak to actually what you just said, not intentionally, but I think it's a great idea to take the new town council around and see the schools, regardless of its composition. I've personally seen and heard some falsehoods being stated about the school committee, just things that I know is not true about our schools, about the committee here. So getting them involved, I think, is a great idea, and making sure that they can see firsthand what the reality of our schooling situation is here. What I intended to come up here to bring to your attention, I've of course been talking to a lot of people in town. I'm hoping to join you up there in a few weeks. And something that a resident brought to my attention, which I will share, I may not have full information about, but I wanted to make sure you're aware of, is that right now our NEC partner program exists in both elementary schools, with a portion of it being served at Washington Street and a portion being served at Lincoln Street. And I believe it's K through 2 is happening at Washington and 3 through 5 at Lincoln, though I may not be correct about that. Okay, that is correct. Yep. So I'm bringing it up because my concern is that one of the really exciting propositions that were part of the redistricting is to bring teaching teams together and giving that opportunity for for just collaboration and additional, keeping resources together. And that this structure seems to me that we're breaking apart a team that is relatively small and could really benefit from being in the same building together. The other concern that I had here was that these are students that are generally educated in a separate classroom but have opportunities for inclusion in other classrooms. At least that is my understanding of how the program works. And so for these students to build friendships and relationships with other students outside their primary classroom, and then be the only group of students to not go to the same, upper elementary school, that's a pretty major disruption of those students' social circles. And these are students who very likely have difficulty building those social relationships to begin with by the structure of their education. So there may be benefits that I'm not aware of to the way it's structured right now, but I just wanted to bring it up as there may be an opportunity to better serve both the staff and the students if we could bring both of those K-2 and 3-5 to the same site. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve Sherlock, 13 Magnolia, Community Information Director for Franklin Matters, Franklin Public Radio. Had two things, now I got a third thing. Thanks to the food pantry for the reminder, since they didn't mention the turkey trot is coming up Thanksgiving morning. And I'll put a plug in too, because Jen and Aaron talked with me about a week or so ago. The time's kind of like blended for the last couple of weeks. But the audio is now available. It was posted yesterday. It'll be on the radio, I believe, on Friday. So you'll be able to listen to the renewal of Turkey Trot and the Thanksgiving morning. And they've added a costume award for the best costume for the day. So quick one on that one. Secondly, one of the things we do is to try to amplify the public good. And while my radar tends to be good from time to time, I'm also finding the day of, there's a fundraiser from, whether it's a PCC or a sports, et cetera. I'd like to get the word out to anybody that's doing fundraising for anybody's schools. Generally, that's something you've been planning for a while. Get it to me, get it to us, so that we can put it on the calendar. And I think I've mentioned last year I was going to put a reminder, but clearly you had a bunch of things going at the beginning of the school year, but now that things are starting to roll, it'd be a good time to put that in. So the daily calendar also has a special piece for what's happening. So the ECDC enrollment piece is on the daily calendar every day this week per request, and that's a valid request. There's a fundraiser tomorrow, I believe it's for the Music Boosters at Panera. But I've also been seeing some it's too late for me to put it out there. So just create the awareness. If you've got something coming and it's a fundraiser, let us know. And then finally, clearly with the election coming, there were 23 interviews, 14 days over the span of 21 days because of the time crunch. The videos and audios are available. So Franklin residents, please get informed, cast an informed vote on or before November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. And Steve, a huge, huge thank you as well, just for putting all of that information together. It was well over 12 hours. It's longer than like some Stranger Things episodes. And so that's just a tremendous service to the entire town of Franklin. So thank you so much for that. All right. And anything, citizens' comments online as well. All right, and jumping on to new business.
Okay, for new business, next meeting, you can expect an update on the October 1st enrollment with our enrollment report where we lay out kind of where we're at as a district, and that's our formalized date through the state. We also will have a pledge student from school committee member's child. This is a unique one, curveball, like that. And then I'll also be sharing an update on my goals as superintendent that are linked to the district goals that you approved. So you can expect to see more information on that at the next coming meeting.
Fantastic.
And this is a little off topic, but an update on enrollment, just because I know that part of the reason why we were told this year that the budget for the town was short because it ended up being some more kids ended up enrolling in the charter school than had been anticipated. Do you know what is the mechanism for reporting the number of students to the charter school? How does that work in town?
I'm going to be sharing I'll provide a presentation on that in the
Okay.
report, and I can explain some of how the functions work and how reporting happens.
Okay, yeah.
But that's my goal next meeting. Is
I've been
actually
asked
to
that and
walk
I
through that.
don't know the answer, so
No,
that's
that's okay,
perfect.
it's a
Yeah.
great question. And
Yeah.
if you look at last year's, you'll see in my narratives where I provide some detail, but I think what we'll do is come back around and then provide just another overview and just provide that information, just to set the baseline. And I think it's just good information to have on video, to have that document so you can look through and see, and we can look at the numbers. Some of it has to do with enrollment shifts, but also the cost of education has increased beyond the Franklin Public Schools as well, so there's a few drivers that play a role in that.
Okay, yeah, because the question I'm getting specifically is it us that got the number wrong, or, how did that number end up being inaccurate? And I don't even know that it's you guys. that
Well,
are-
and the number on October 1st when you do enrollment, and the number by June 17th.
Can change.
It can change, and does
Right.
change, and did change. So
Gotcha.
we'll walk through, like we did last year, we'll provide
Okay.
you with kind of a historical context, and then just provide an update.
Thanks.
Yep.
I thought last meeting we were gonna talk about or at least last meeting's new business was about the MASC resolutions. Is that gonna be next meeting?
So we certainly can. There wasn't, at the last one, I had mentioned if you were interested in kind of being a delegate, to kind of reach out. Hadn't been any interest, so we didn't have that as a discussion action item.
Mm-hmm.
If folks are interested in that, we certainly can do that. We can submit that. There's one item on the resolution to remove, I guess, the 1842 rule about a BMI screening. It's kind of light on the things, but without interest for a delegate, we can have somebody, and to kind of go on down to November 14.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
So, yep. All right. Then otherwise, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the FEA, van drivers, cafeteria, ESP, LPN, and secretary units as an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the school committee, and the chair so declares. Again, we will be adjourning to executive session and will not be returning to open meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn into executive session as discussed?
Motion to enter executive session as discussed.
Second?
Second.
Discussion, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you all.